Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. So it is an inclusive accelerator as opposed to the exclusive ones that receive 10,000 applications and accept 5. Anybody is welcome to join 1 Million by 1 Million as long as you're working within the technology and technology-enabled services space, which is our expertise area. We have been doing, in support of our mission, these free mentoring roundtables for more than 10 years. We started experimenting with this model of online mentoring back in the fall of 2008. And this is the 439th session. So it's been a very long journey. Over 100,000 people have participated in these sessions. And we have had the opportunity and the privilege to work with entrepreneurs all over the world. We run this out of Silicon Valley, but both our team is spread around the world, and entrepreneur community that we serve is also spread out around the world. So it's usually a fascinating experience of what's happening in different parts of the world and catching up on those trends. Very, very interesting and exciting to do it with all of you. The event is being recorded. Every single recording of our prior roundtables are available on the YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. This one will go there too. If you're live tweeting today, please use hashtag 1M1M. Our Twitter handles are at 1M1M and at Sramana. Many of you are already following those. Please feel free to follow them if you're looking for good content, inspirational content, educational content, and informative, trend-related stuff. We are going to start today's roundtable with a conversation with Michael Smerklo, co-founder of Next Coast Ventures. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mana. Great to be here.
So let's start by getting to know you, introducing you to our audience. Tell us a bit about yourself as well as about Next Coast.
Great, love to do so. So first and foremost, I'm on day 2 of a 3-day fast. So if I faint in the middle of this, Sramana, just please call 911 or something. But no, I'm joking. I'm actually in the middle of fast. But so my background quickly is I grew up in the middle part of the United States. First person in my family to go to college. Started my career in jobs that I endured but hated in public accounting and investment banking. I moved out to Silicon Valley in the late 90s. First started to work out there for Morgan Stanley kind of 2 bubbles ago, I guess, as I like to say. And then my first operating job was to go help a guy named Mark Andreessen and another guy named Ben Horowitz build a company called LoudCloud. So for all the listeners that have read Ben's amazing book, The Hard Thing About the Hard Thing, which is, I think, the best book out there on entrepreneurship, I lived directly chapters 1 through 7. And then I left because I wanted to go be an entrepreneur myself and run a company. I used a vehicle called a search fund and ended up buying a small business in downtown San Francisco. I ran that business as CEO for about 12 years, took it from about 30 employees when I bought it to almost 3,000 employees when I retired, raised capital privately, and then also took it public in 2011, and I ran it as a public company for about 3 years. And by the time I retired, as I mentioned, 3,000 employees, offices around the world, a really great tech-enabled services business, but found myself at a point where I was both, I think, underqualified and exhausted, and so decided to retire and move into venture. I co-founded Next Coast Ventures about 4 years ago in Austin, Texas, with a gentleman named Tom Ball. And our whole approach was to start a firm in the Next Coast market, so off the coast of the United States, focused on what our tagline, which is built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. And I've been running that firm with Tom for the last 4 years.
Tell us a bit about the fund. How big is it? What do you like to invest in?
Yeah, sure. So Fund One was just under 90 million. We set out to raise. It was interesting. And I know you're definitely in tune with the changing venture landscape. And we set out to raise a $50 million fund. We put a lot of our own money into it, and really we're looking initially to write check sizes. And this is again 4 years ago, in the $2 to $5 million range, Series A, Series B. We joked that almost as we were pulling together that strategy, the venture landscape was shifting dramatically. So we've stuck to focusing on Series A and Series B investments in Next Coast markets and domestically in the United States. So Austin being our headquarters, but we're not entirely focused on Austin. But I would say our check sizes have moved more towards, as the market has moved more towards the $5 to $10 million range. Mm-hmm. And in terms of sectors, because we're a relatively small fund, we focus on three primary sectors, which we would put as enterprise, B2B SaaS is one, consumer, and, that was not my phone. And then the third one is...
Just a second, Maureen, can you mute the other two lines or other line, which is generating this noise? Go ahead, Mike.
I thought those were like sound effects to add emphasis to when I added it. It almost felt like, as I was saying our sectors, I was getting a sound effect behind it. I was really impressed with that, if that was your podcasting methodology. But anyways, the third sector is what we would call emerging platforms, or typically software-powered business models. And those tend to be things that, the best example of that would be an Airbnb or Uber, where software is driving the business model, but it's not being sold in a traditional way. And so those are the three things we focus on. And then we combine that with what we call a thematic approach. So we look at major trends that we see in the marketplace, things like digital natives becoming digital consumers, or the changing face of retail. And when those two things come together, combined with an amazing entrepreneur being the most important part, that's where we get really excited.
Now, what is the current fund size? Is $50 million in the small fund size to do 5 million, 10 million checks out of?
Oh, I'm sorry, I might have forgot. So we ended up being way oversubscribed for Fund One. So I apologize, I missed that. We ended up being just under 90 million for Fund One. So it ended up being almost twice as large as we expected.
Okay. All right. And to write those checks, what are you looking for? Like if you're doing a B2B SaaS deal, what kind of ARR or MRR metrics are you looking for?
Yeah, it's as you know, it's more art and science, and I've listened to the podcast, which I think you've done a wonderful job. I'm just happy to be, by the way, to be in the top 500. So I made it in the first 500, but a great job, and I think you're really dialing into this changing nature of venture. And I bring it up as a preamble because it makes it hard to say we have a specific revenue threshold or anything like that. Well, we look at it a little bit differently, which is we really want to see some indication of product market fit. And that can be as evidence. It tends to be around $1 million of ARR, but it's not necessitated by it. And we also want to see some indication of what the unit economics or margin structure would look like.
Yeah.
So I distinguish that because a lot of times folks that kind of look past that tend to be more in the seed area of investing. That's not us. We really want to see, we're not usually a typical first institutional capital. We'll really come in and be Series A, Series B, and that's as evidenced by some degree of, again, product market fit and some understanding of how the business at scale will look from a margin structure. That's how we put those characteristics around it more than a defined revenue threshold.
Yeah, okay. And when it comes to a company like Airbnb or Uber style that you said you are interested in, how do you gauge those? Those are, again, do you gauge with some metrics, some revenue metrics, or do you gauge some other way? How do you determine which ones you think are going to go?
Yeah, I give that example more along the lines of what I call software-powered business models or emerging platforms. That was the reference to it. There, to us, when all the companies we're looking at, they're all breaking into new markets. They've introduced a product, and I think most entrepreneurs, you dream up the new product, you introduce it to the marketplace, and then the fun, quote unquote, really starts to happen. we're looking to try and understand for definitely emerging models like that, how's the customer engagement going? What has the customer feedback been? And I think really understanding, no one launches a product and the customers, I was listening to someone else, it's like, there's an old adage of build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. That just doesn't exist. The world's busy. It's a complicated structure you're operating in. And so we look at it more as you introduce the product, how are you seeing customer feedback? How are you responding to that customer feedback? How are you adapting and modifying your solution? And how are you thinking about that at scale? That's more the lens and landscape we take to it.
The noise level in the market is so high. Cutting through that noise and getting to a segment of customers is really challenging, really, really difficult. So, okay.
I think it's amazing. I think it's, and what's happened is a side note, you hit upon this, is that when I first started in technology 20 years ago, it was a very defined market. It was usually enterprise in nature, and now if you read any of the daily funding events, it's everything from perfume to dog food to you name it is being disruptive. And that's a good thing, but it also, to your point, makes it a really, really crowded. I don't think there's a space out there that doesn't have some innovation or venture funding happening right now.
Yeah, and all the days when you could pay a few cents to acquire through Google advertising are gone. Customer acquisition, buying online traffic has become very expensive, both on search and on social media. So, yeah
indeed.
So let's talk about some examples of what you have invested in. And in particular, what I would like to do is kind of understand your thought process in selecting those. What is it about those companies? When they came to you, what did they have? Why did they speak to you enough for you to want to engage and write checks?
Yeah. So we've invested in about 25 different companies right now. All of our portfolios on our website. I differentiate a little bit. For the first fund, we took about 10% of that and put it into what we call innovation. These would be smaller check size, more passive in nature, really to develop our brand, to increase our aperture in terms of entrepreneurs. But the core focus we have is the really Series A and Series B, and we've done about 11 of those to date. I would say that every one of those have a very similar characteristic. They have a big market, kind of motherhood and apple pie. They have a disruptive solution, so we've looked at it in some ways, said this is unique. But by far the defining characteristic, if I went through our core portfolio, every one of them has one thing in common, and that is I know it's a family show, but I would say we call it a kick-ass entrepreneur. Can't help myself on the language. It's someone, we use a very non-technical term called a glass eater. And that means we look at the entrepreneur and we can tell that she has or he has the focus, the determination, and the stick-to-itiveness, if you will, to drive the business forward. Because to your point earlier, big market is one thing. There's a lot of people going after ideas in big markets, disruptive solution. We see that. But where we really, really get excited is when you have that entrepreneur that you go, she is just going to run through a wall. We certainly want to make sure they're going to stay within ethical and legal boundaries, so that's never for question. But just that mindset that they're going to run to it, and that is a term, we use this term glass eater, which is, again, a term of endearment, but it really kind of signifies what we're looking for most, and that's when we get most enthusiastic about an investment.
So talk about some examples of what you have really invested in, not the small checks to get in the game, more the ones that are conviction investments.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example, and this fits kind of all the categories. One of our a company I'm on the board of, a company called Everlywell in Austin, Texas. This was an idea that we were looking at. So this is disrupting the lab testing business. So if you're a consumer, you want to get a lab test. Historically, in the U.S., you drive to a clinic, you submit the test, your doctor gets the results, and hopefully you get some form of information from that. Today's consumer, certainly millennials and beyond, want to have more control over their health. They want to understand things at a deeper level. And so there's a great entrepreneur named Julia Cheek, and she looked at this market and said, can I disrupt this? Can I go direct to consumer with a lab testing opportunity? So can I go directly to consumer and provide them with a much greater experience? We looked at this, we were looking at thematically, we believe that biohacking or personal health hacking was a big trend. So that was the market. We came across Julia, and we're a little bit different firm. We actually cold called her, which is very different in the venture community. We knew the market. We saw what she was doing. We had missed the seed round. So we did something kind of unusual in the venture community. We called her up and said, gosh, we'd like to meet you. And she was gracious enough to meet with us. We spent about a year getting to know her and her business. And when it came to their Series A, we were the only new investor in, and we just did the same thing with our soon-to-be-announced Series B. But I would say this is a great example of an entrepreneur who took a big market opportunity, disrupted the solution, but if there was ever an example of what I call this glass eater, Julia defines it. She is focused. She's built an amazing team, and her commitment and passion around the customer experience is omnipresent in everything they do. And that's one where, to your point, when you see that, the conviction rate gets incredibly high.
And what is the disruptive solution? What are they doing that's different from the general lab market?
So you can go on to everlywell.com. You can choose from about 25 different modalities. So if you're sitting here trying to figure out perhaps you've got a food sensitivity, or you're concerned about various levels, like for men it could be testosterone levels, or other aspects of your health that you can narrow slice down and say, I'm kind of interested to learn more about it. You can go on to Everlywell. You can pick out a kit. They'll send a kit directly to your home. You can self-administer a sample, usually blood or saliva, send it back to them. They'll process it in very short order, and then literally in a 2 to 3 day time frame, you'll get a robust and rich data set and information back to you, helping you understand exactly where your health needs may be. And then they can help guide you. They're not a physician, but they can help you understand in the health journey where you might want to take that. And if you compare that to I go to my doctor, he gives me a form, I go get a test, I come back, et cetera, it's just a radically different consumer-oriented solution. And so the company has just done incredibly well and has been on a tear in terms of growth and customer acquisition.
Very interesting. I would definitely like to learn more. If you would ask her to come to our Entrepreneur Journey series or Thought Leaders in Healthcare IT series, I would love to learn more. And one of the thoughts that come to my mind, I've seen a company like this, Iris Wellness, and one of the issues, we actually used them, and then we had the issue of the physicians not wanting to process the information that Iris provided. None of the physicians were equipped to deal with it. So I'm very curious on how she is handling the interface with the physicians. Eventually, this has to plug into the physicians to react. So I'm very curious on how she's handling all that. So clearly a trend. Would love to learn more.
Yep.
Okay.
And happy to do that, and a great example of disruption, and to your point, and that's when I talk about, like, when you think about a great entrepreneur, you have to understand that when you introduce this product, to your point, it may be a great product, but it's a great system level thinking, what you're alluding to, and that's another thing we look for. How is the market environment going to respond to it? And great entrepreneurs think holistically about that.
Yeah, okay. Why don't we do another example? I think it's very interesting, the kinds of things you're investing in. So let's do another example, and then we'll talk a few trend issues. Yeah.
Another example of similar characteristics, if you will, would be a company called Alert Media in Austin, Texas. Here's a multi-time founder, and again, kind of in the origins of it. So Alert Media provides mass communication, a software solution for critical communications in a multimodality environment. So what the heck does that mean? So they can come in a very light touch environment and allow companies from medium-sized business all the way up to Fortune 500 to have a communication infrastructure to their employees for everything from emergency situations all the way up to other critical communication events.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they sell a SaaS solution, and they allow a company like a Nextcoast, we could use it, and we're then able to have it at our fingertips, a communication with all of our employees across all modalities. So everything from the phone to the desktop to Slack, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's controlled by an administrator, but in the environment we're working, think about major trends, and this gets back to our thematic approach, where you have people working from home, you have distributed employee base, you have, unfortunately, a lot of localized terrorism, for example, as a bad news environment, but you've got all these factors, and if you're left to being a leader in a company, what you're concerned about is how do I make sure my employees are safe, that they're communicated with, and that I can geofence them. I know where they are, and I know that they're safe. And Alert Media provides a robust solution into this marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And another example, again, where the solution's big, the market opportunity is massive and growing, but most importantly, the entrepreneur, Brian Kruger, saw this opportunity and has almost tirelessly, from a customer-centric point of view, built an amazing business, and one that has grown massively over the last 3 to 4 years. Another great Austin-based company, but again, fits all those 3 parameters that we talked about before.
So a slightly different question. You are operating in Austin, and as you said, it's the next coast, so you don't necessarily operate in the 2 coasts. What are the differences in the companies that you see? What are the differences in expectations? What are the differences in how they navigate in your sphere of influence?
Yes, Ramana, it's a great question, and I think, and having lived in the Valley for a long time, I still go back and forth once a month. It's pretty distinct, and what we find from the characteristics is we look at, and we invest in. We've got portfolio companies in Salt Lake City, in Minneapolis, in Austin, and we're expanding that as part of our firm strategy. But we see great entrepreneurs. We see big business ideas, so those are consistent with the coast. But what we see is typically more capital efficient businesses, so they tend to start out with more of a bootstrapping mentality.
Yeah.
We see more realistic outcomes, and we see more time, candidly, for the entrepreneur and the venture capitalist to develop a relationship. Mm-hmm. And so what we love about investing in these markets is, unlike I've got a ton of dear friends in the Valley, and there it's hyper competitive, it's $1 billion or bust, and it tends to be in a pitch, term sheet, make decision very quickly. And the challenge with that last part is when you take capital from someone like us, you're entering into a 5 to 10 year relationship / marriage. And so I like the opportunity. Yeah, and so what I love about working in Next Coast markets is we get more time with the entrepreneur to make sure, A, we understand the business. Yeah, B, and we have a shared outcome. So we spend a lot of time with the entrepreneur to try to understand, where do you want to take this business? If you own 80% of a business and you sell it for $30 million, that's a heck of an outcome for the entrepreneur. Yeah. It may not work for our model. So we spend a lot of time on that. And then third, are we the best partner? We like to roll up our sleeves. We join the board. We have a company building mindset. And so we spend a lot more time with the entrepreneur to make sure that we're the best fit, because it's a very important decision.
Mm-hmm. And, the geographies that you've mentioned, we have quite a bit of experience in some of them. Utah is really booming, actually, and Utah has taken that bootstrapping ethos to the ultimate levels of success. I mean, the company after company they have produced that have done great bootstrapping, then raised good solid capital and have gone public or gotten acquired in a very, very solid way.
In terms of in the Next Coast markets?
Well, yeah, you mentioned you're doing Salt Lake City, Utah, and Minnesota, and so forth. I think Utah of those markets, Utah really stands out.
Yeah, Utah. I think the two we tend to think this is a major trend. We think in the U.S. the build out of, and I think Steve Case has done a great job helping us with branding with this whole discussion of the rise of the rest. But we think that this trend is a long-term trend. I think, and again, I just came back from Silicon Valley. There's no place like in the world, East Coast, West Coast, there's no place like it in the world. But at the end of the day, cost of living, ability to attract talent, the ability to have a more balanced lifestyle, you can do this, and you can still build great companies in markets like Austin or Salt Lake City. So I think this is a long-term trend. I do think that Salt Lake and Austin are farthest along on it, but we think this movement to next coast markets is just getting started and gets us super, super excited.
Yeah, and we're doing a lot of stuff in that. We see constantly companies, investors, ecosystem developers who are working in bringing up new geographies. The other guy who did a lot on that to kind of bring a success that was very visible was in Montana, Greg Gianforte. He did Right Now, which went public and then got acquired by Oracle. So that was a big, gave Bozeman, Montana a big boost. So yeah, philosophically, we are very much in that. We do that globally. We are even working on all these, unknown markets or markets that people don't even consider. So I think it's going to take a while. But we're here for hopefully another 20, 30 years, and we'll see what we can do. Yeah. All right. What else would you like to communicate to our audience? I think your philosophy is very much in alignment. The capital-efficient entrepreneurship is very much in alignment with 1 million by 1 million, as you know. So whatever else that you want to communicate before we switch to the entrepreneur pitches, please go ahead.
Well, I think the biggest thing I'd like to communicate is a thank you to all the entrepreneurs out there. I did it myself, and I think, for better or for worse, unless you've done the job, unless you've quit, you've taken all the risk. I joke, unless you told someone, your significant other, hey, I'm going to go do this crazy idea, and you really sit out there and try it, you don't fully understand just how hard this job is. And I want to say thank you to all the entrepreneurs out there, because it is amazing. It is absolutely important and critical work that they're doing. And I can only speak from personal experience. I found it to be the hardest job in the world, but the greatest job in the world. And I think, I hope as an investor, I can bring some of that empathy, but what I do is easy comparatively. I joke with my friends now, they say, are you busy? And I say, I'm busy, but I'll never be as busy as stressed as I was as an entrepreneur. So any venture capitalist who comes on, I'm number 400 and whatever I am. Any venture capitalist who tells you their job is hard and I'm so stressed out, I say nonsense. It's the entrepreneurs that are making the difference. We have the amazing blessing and opportunity, and filled with gratitude, to get to work with them, to give them capital and try to give them advice. But, I find it, I guess I'm getting a little my soapbox, but I find it laughable when venture guys or gals say, oh yeah, I made this happen. No, it's the entrepreneurs that do it. And we are just incredibly grateful to work with amazing entrepreneurs. And to all those out there, I would just say thank you for the hard work, and keep after it, because it does make a massive difference in the world. Wonderful message. Actually, it's something that people should pay a little bit of attention to, because VCs expect that entrepreneurs are going to be catering to them. They're going to be bowing to them, and that's just wrong. VCs are service providers. Entrepreneurs are the ones who are really out there, fighting and making the sacrifices. Any company that gets anywhere has, 18, 24, 36 months or sometimes longer of intense sacrifice, no salary, very frugal, meager lifestyles, all this sacrifice which VCs never even have to think about making. So your point is very well taken. I'm very glad you made that point. Yeah, I do. I have a blog under my name at MikeSmerklo.com, where I talk about what I call the TOS, which is the other stuff that entrepreneurs go through. For anyone out there, it really hits on the more mental side of it. It is a very, very hard job, and I won't say any more about. I won't reiterate your point, and thank you for what you're doing, because I think what you're doing to help entrepreneurship is also wonderful. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you for what you're doing, and all the entrepreneurs out there, just keep after it.
Thank you, Mike. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you. Bye now.
All right, folks, we're going to switch to the entrepreneur pitch section of the conversation today. This is a working session. It's a safe working session. Any of you can share whatever it is that you're struggling with, and we will work with it and hopefully give you something interesting and helpful to move forward with and accelerate your journey. So we are on your side. Don't feel nervous. Don't feel self-conscious. This is a friendly environment. Nobody is going to, try to humiliate you or anything. It's just that but I will give you honest, direct feedback, constructive feedback with which you can make progress. You can disagree, by the way, with what you get here, and it's your venture, so you will do what you want. But do understand that the feedback is based on a lot of experience and a lot of pattern matching, having seen a lot of patterns. So there is validity to what I'm going to tell you. Consider it. The least I would expect is that you consider it, and then you decide what is the right thing for you to do. One thing you must know, not all businesses can raise money, not all businesses should raise money, and raising money doesn't guarantee success. The market is littered with dead by overfunding stories. VC's equation is that 1 out of 10 companies is going to succeed phenomenally, the other 9 are going to fail. So raising money doesn't mean that you are getting into that surefire success zone. There are a lot of companies that have succeeded without money as well. We have nothing against venture capital. As you can see, we bring you investor after investor here to talk to so that you can get familiar with investors' thinking. But nonetheless, we also do not force investment down your throats. All right. We are going to start with Chris Ziomkowski in Bangkok. Chris, you must be up very, very late or very early, whichever way you want to put it.
Yeah, it's about 10:30 at night here. That's okay. I tend to work very late because I need to interface with people in the States. So this time frame is actually perfect for me. I'm quite happy.
All right. Go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. I'd like to begin, just say thank you, Sharmana, for giving me this opportunity, and to Maureen for putting this whole thing together. We really appreciate it. I guess my story begins when I graduated from Caltech back in the early 90s. I got a degree in computational neural systems, and AI back then was very, very at the early stages. We were doing face recognition on 32 by 32 pixel slides. So I have a background in that, but I really went into parallel computing, and that led me to telecom, where I got to see how markets were disrupted during the voice over IP phase. I came over to Thailand actually to set up the largest voice over IP carrier for the country of Thailand. And after that, I moved on to a company called World Moto, which made a really, really interesting product that interfaces with taximeters. That company eventually didn't make it due to the rise of Uber, but that was very, very educational for me. And then I got into the blockchain space, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. XTend Online basically makes cryptocurrency mining equipment. And the interesting, I guess, can you switch to the next slide, Sharmana? Yeah, so we're looking at programmable miners. They are dramatically faster than anything that's on the market today. And again, my background is in massively parallel computing. My partner's background, he was one of the original designers for the Sun Spark Station, and he's quite good at this. So let's keep going to the next slide because I'm running over time here. Sorry, I need to practice this a bit. The basic issue that people have with this is that there are two kinds of mining equipment. There's the programmable type and there are ASICs. So if you're a miner and you need to go do something, you either have to use equipment that's a legacy solution and very, very slow, or you have to go to an ASIC, which quickly become obsolete and only work for specific chips. So our solution is 2 years in development. Based on my experience with parallel supercomputing, we've created a whole new architecture that's 10 to 20 times faster than GPUs, and we believe it's going to take over the market. This is a $2 billion marketplace currently today, and it's growing. So let's switch to the next slide. So in terms of customer acquisition, I've been going around the trade shows talking to mining people. The acquisition is basically split into two phases. In the first phase, for the first 2 years, we basically have no competition at all in this space. So our production will be, our customer acquisition will be limited by production and not being able to get customers. But we plan on using that time in order to establish ourselves as the go-to brand. So we constantly are getting messages, and the market size is about $130 billion if you include everything from the mining space and the artificial intelligence space. And the interesting thing about this is that these two fields are converging. So what we call mining today, blockchain mining, is going to converge with AI training, and they're likely to become the same industry in the future. And that's really where we're targeting our company. We have a product today that's guaranteed to make money. It's got about a $5 to $6 billion.
Can you stop for a second on this slide? These are top-down numbers. Have you done any kind of bottom-up analysis on the two markets that you're talking about, the cryptocurrency mining on one hand and AI, high-performance AI processors on the other hand?
Yeah, the cryptocurrency mining is about $38 billion, and the AI market is about $95 billion. So we combine those two together and put it in.
You're quoting top-down numbers. I'm asking for bottoms-up. The investors don't care about top-down numbers. We need bottom-up.
Exactly what do you mean by bottom-up?
I don't have time to teach you bottom-up market sizing here in this call. So just make a note make a note, and that's something that we're going to be needing. So let's go to your questions, and then we'll you can do that offline, the bottom-up TAM analysis offline.
Okay. So basically our biggest problem we've noticed in terms of trying to raise funds is that the amount we need as seed funding is quite large. The profit from this is tremendous. We have no competition. So our biggest issue is how do we find investors for whom putting in $20 million into a seed venture is not really a problem. That requires a specific type of investor to do that, because this, it's a big amount of money, and there's billions on the back end of this. So it maps into the one strategy.
There are investors in the market to do that. But the issue is, are they going to back you? So we are going to have to figure out how you're going to convince investors to back you to do this project. So I think the high-performance chip market is a market. People understand that. I understand that. I come from a background like yours, from a distributed computing, parallel distributed computing background. I was on Alewife with Anant Agarwal at MIT in the same time that you were in Caltech. I think you know this project, yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I understand your business pretty well. The question is going to be, first and foremost, why are you in Bangkok? Are you going to want to do this project from Bangkok? It's going to be very difficult to do this project from Bangkok and get it funded at the right level.
Well, both me and my partner are here, so we have families and are raising families, so that's the reason it's in Bangkok.
Yeah, so this kind of money, if you want to build the company in Bangkok, is going to be very, very difficult to raise. That's the first feedback I will give you. You need to really consider very seriously whether you are willing to move or not, because, there's a lot of company building happening in every corner of the world, as we just talked about with Mike. But certain kinds of companies, what you're trying to do is a fat startup, and it's a very fat startup. It's not a little fat startup. It's going to be a very fat startup. Chip startups don't happen very much outside of the core markets because there are only a handful of people, venture capitalists, who are willing to do this stuff, and they would want you to be in their comfort zone, not in Bangkok. So this is going to be a deal breaker if you insist on that. Just consider that as your life choice going forward. Mm-hmm. So then the other option then is if you can still do it from Bangkok, if you can convince a customer to advance you money. So that's a possibility. If you can get enterprise customers to advance you money, that would be another way to do this. So I have to work with you much more closely in much more detail to figure out who could do that and you know what might be options, alternatives to doing this in Silicon Valley or an equivalent geography where there's a chip industry and chip investors. And okay. If you're going to move from somewhere else, I mean, the best thing would be to move to Silicon Valley for something like this.
Quick question for you. Would just traveling, would that work? Could I spend half time in the Silicon Valley and half time in Bangkok? Would an investor go for something like that? From a personal standpoint, I don't think I...
What about people? How many people do you need to do this chip?
Well, again, right now, the chip is basically done from the front end. The back end is going to be done by Avnet. So for this particular chip, it's going to be very, very quick. Now, moving forward in the future, there are going to be more chips falling on. We're going to need a lot more people, and you're correct. It cannot be done from Bangkok. It has to be done from somewhere else. So that's the problem that we run into is that where are we going to locate this? But the issue that we have, of course, is that we're both over here right now and both have families. So we'd like to be able to work out an arrangement where we don't have to move families.
Yeah. All right. So that's kind of my feedback, at least first level feedback based on what you've shown me so far. Let me work with the others and then I'll come back. We can do more Q&A at the end of the session.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Kiran Karidi, you are in Bridgewater, New Jersey, nearby to Maureen, actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Kiran Karidi. Hopefully, I'm audible to everyone. I'm a co-founder of, Codebot AI, which is a technology platform, and our mission is to automate the software development process, be it a desktop software or a, website or be a mobile application. Next slide, please. So that's our mission statement. We would like to automate the whole process of, the code aspect of the software development process, where we generate the code and do intelligent, code analytics. Be the input like in text or voice or image. Next, please. So the problem that we are trying to solve is that, the application development, be it like, any kind of application, it's very resource intensive and I'm a developer programmer, where I have seen that, people reinvent the wheel where they don't have to. So, with the technology platform that we are building, we can shorten the whole development process to, a big amount. And we see that when AI, artificial intelligence, is being used across verticals, across areas, why not, use the same to code generation or do, automatic analysis on the code. So at this moment, code is just being a code to output something, but this code is not being used as a data. So which is where we come into, to do more of code analysis and, bring out intelligent, analytics on the code. Next, please. So the solution is that, we are building a tech platform which can accept, text, voice, or image, which can generate code. If you have business requirements of any software application, you just upload that document and it will generate code, and it can generate code in multiple programming languages. At this moment, we have an MVP which can be accessed. It generates Python and code in seconds. We have a huge roadmap to add more, quality metrics and these other things. And one more, which this can solve is that I see that between business teams and the developers, there is a lot of miscommunication as to the area of requirement specifications, where they go through lots of iterations, because their programmer can assume something, whatever, and may not be to the expectation of the business analyst or the product manager who wrote the specifications. So with our platform, we feel that that can be minimized as well. Next slide, please. So coming to the team, I am a programmer. This is my fourth startup. I have a unique, mix of healthcare and IT background, both by education and experience. I'm a veterinarian by bachelor's, and I've done master's in computer science. And I have worked at various pharma companies and have developed some applications as part of my previous startup, which are still being used by top 10 pharma companies. And Mukesh Patel is my co-founder. He teaches business in a university in New Jersey, and a serial entrepreneur. And he's very famous in the New York City area. He's identified as hot 30 movers and shakers in the New York City area for the startup. Next, please. We are looking to build an advisory board. So this is how it works. So at this moment, it's just an MVP. So you go to codebotai.com. You just upload a text document with the business requirement specifications, or you can, hand type it and click on generate, and you see the code generated in seconds in Python and Java. So, our end objective is to do that whole software development process automated end to end. It may not be completely automated, but to the extent possible. So at this point, whatever that requirement specifications which it converts into code is more of the middleware. It doesn't handle the front end or the back end part, which we are working on. Next, please. So this is just a screenshot. Next, please. Next, please. I have lots of slides, so I don't want to. Next, please. So coming to the technology, it's based on, machine learning, natural language processing, and we have some proprietary algorithms that we have designed, to convert, that specifications to code. And there are no requirements as to have specific keywords or formatting of that, specification language. It's plain, English natural language. So we would like to build a couple of modules, which can do, code generation, code analysis, and other stuff. So at this point, it can handle text. We would like to make it like an Alexa for a programmer. The idea came up to me where, people are using Alexa for the, as a personal digital assistant, right? So I thought, why not have an Alexa kind, in a professional environment, which can do, lots of things. So we are yet to add the voice component and the image component. Next, please.
So okay, go ahead. I just still have more stuff.
Sure. So we would like to target freelancers and this educational market, helping with student assignments and all that, and then go to small medium businesses, then go to enterprises, because the enterprises would have lots of requirements as to tying up with the other existing applications that they have in their process workflow. So, we would like to target, freelancers and probably startup founders where prototyping can be done very rapidly. Next, please. And we have come up with a few strategic partnerships that we can establish with universities or freelance marketplaces like Upwork or freelancer.com, or with schools. This can be used to teach to kids on how to program at a very elemental level that they can understand. So a product can be created out of it. So there is no revenue, we are pre-revenue, and we are looking at a freemium model where, it's free to use and, up to a certain word limit. And after that, per word charges can apply. We are yet to figure out on the costing. And there can be API subscription model, and for big enterprises, there can be, a separate licensing model. And, year 2, we are projecting 10 million, and year 4, 100 million at this point. So the market is very huge because we cannot imagine be it an individual or a business without using an application or creating an application. So there's a huge scope. It uses the artificial intelligence and the software development both in combination. It's a very big market.
Okay, I think I'm going to start giving you some feedback. I think we understand what you're trying to do. Your go-to-market strategy is not correct. I think you will not succeed with that go-to-market strategy or that pricing model. And your projections are also not credible based on that go-to-market strategy. So there's a lot of work you need to do here. You need to contend with what's happening inside Google. Google is putting a lot of resources on automated code generation, and you can pretty much assume that once they figure it out, they're going to put it out there in the public domain, and you're not going to be able to compete with it because they're going to make it free. So that's the assumption that I would start with. So you need to find a niche where Google is not going to necessarily go. And you need to also find out who else is working on it. Is Microsoft working on automatic code generation? Who else is working on automatic code generation? And you need to figure out a strategy that shields you from these, major providers who are going to give it out for free. So that's feedback number 1. Feedback number 2 is I would focus specifically on a segment and a niche that you can charge for right away. This freemium is not going to work for you because Google's going to go freemium. Google can even go free, and you don't want to go freemium against that. So you're going to need to find a niche where there are customers who are willing to pay for something that is specific, not something generic. So that's something that if you were to work with me, I would guide you to focus on a positioning and a strategy that has a much higher chance of success. Your current strategy, what you've pitched here, has no chance of success, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? So the problem is fine. The fact that automatic code generators are going to happen, I think is inevitable. I think it will happen. Google is going to make it happen. Microsoft is going to make it happen. And each of them are going to make it happen in their own way. And they're going to position their products and their solutions to enable their own ecosystems. So now we have to find a strategy that is going to be orthogonal to the direction they are most likely to go in so that you can win in that direction, in that way. I have some ideas in mind on what you should be doing, but I don't have time to go over all that right now.
Sure. Thank you for the feedback.
So what you're doing is interesting. It's you need to navigate this market very, very intelligently. Otherwise, you're going to become roadkill.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. So we have Amarnath as the next presenter, I believe. Let me see here. Amarnath, please go ahead and unmute your line.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi ma'am. This is Amarnath from India. So I call you ma'am because I'm very younger than you. So this is my company called Futrec Business and IT Solutions, which is incorporated in 2018 July 26. So it is basically what we provide is web and website and application development, Android applications. Hello.
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening. Go ahead.
I'm able to hear it. So what we are doing now is, apart from these services, so we are developing one Android application where we are focusing on this education industry. So I'll explain you with an example. So suppose you ordered a product through Amazon. So all are able to hear, right?
Yeah, please.
Ms. Ramana?
I hear you.
I'm sorry. So if you order a product from Amazon and if it delivered to you, so if it fits you, you will keep it. Otherwise, you will replace or refund it, right? So when it comes to the career, when it comes to choosing a career, we cannot choose so many careers at the same time. We can choose only one and get into it. And after only experiencing it, we realize that whether we like it or not. So after doing the job for 1 or 2 years, and if you don't like it, so we'll go for another job, right? So we thought of a solution where we can try different professions even before trying it, even before really joining in it. So we are creating an Android application so where you can try different professions and get real experience of a profession while you are studying, so that you do not waste time on this training institute, training and going into the real job and getting disappointed after getting the job.
How will you do that?
So suppose take an example. Suppose take an example of a software developer. What does software developer do? So they do coding stuff, and when I say Java developer, they do Java. Java code. When you come to the testing, they'll do testing, right? So we are providing these programs like what is a training programs like for 3 days or 4 days, where you will sit in an office with us, so with our office members. So coming to our means you will sit in an office experience, sitting in a cubicle and experiencing the office environment and do some coding. Suppose so for if it's a program of 3.
You can do that with certain professions. You can't do that with every profession. You can't, for instance, if somebody wants.
The problem is the problem is yes. We cannot do but with every profession, but we can do some lot of professions.
I would argue you can do very few professions, but I haven't really thought about it with a full map.
No, see, it's not very full profession. Software developer is there, testing is there. Suppose you want to become a teacher in a government, like in a government teacher, so you will go and teach to a government school really, so that after completion of the program, what we'll tell is, so if suppose it's a program of 3 days, think an example of software developer. And so we'll do, suppose it's like 3 days. In the first day, we'll give some training. So you will, suppose now you are studying in, now you are in graduation only, you will become. Hello?
Who will be paying for this?
I'm sorry?
Who will be paying for this? Who is the customer?
Customers are the students and everyone who want to try different professions before joining in it, and want to know about each and every profession.
Students have no money. They're going to ask their parents for money, and so your customers are not the students. The customers are the parents.
Okay, so because the students will try, right?
The customers could be the schools.
That's what I'm. Students from the college. Colleges, from the students in the colleges.
Students can never
schools
be,
and colleges.
They don't have any money. So you were asking, what do I think of this product? I think it would be very difficult to create a product that is going to scale. You can do a little product that is going to work a little bit, but I don't think this is a very scalable product that you can build. So it's okay if you want to build a little product and do a small business, that's fine. If you want this to be a very large business, I think it's going to have some scaling issues.
Okay, thank you. So why do you think that it will not scale?
Because I think, you just give me this example of like you want students to go teach in government schools. I'm just taking one example that you gave yourself, right? So finding all these government schools and developing relationships with them such that they're willing to let students teach This is not you have to do every single one by hand, and every single one is going to take a long sales cycle and explaining and so on and so forth. It's going to take, forever to close one deal, and that's just not, it's a high friction model. It's just not a highly scalable model. And then you're going to run into other issues like, there are many professions that cannot possibly do this, like neurosurgery or any kind of surgery, for instance. If you look at India, there is a very large population of students who are considering medicine as their career. So if medicine equals surgery, that is going to be something that you cannot really stick students into those surgery rooms. So, so people have to kind of get into medical school and then pursue that profession, and if they don't like it, they don't like it, and I don't know how you prevent them from not liking something that they've invested a lot of training into. So I'm not convinced that your model is going to work. Okay. It may work in a small scale in one school or maybe in 10 schools in your geography, and you kind of create a little, and there's the geography element as well. So you can try to pilot it in a geography and see if you can, what it takes to make it work, and see if you can make money off it. But I can't say that I'm hugely optimistic that this is going to all come together and generate a lot of money for you. So if your goal is to build a business that is going to give you a lot of money, financial returns, I don't think this is going to be that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. By the way, you all have recordings of every single conversation that we're having here. The recordings are going to be published on YouTube. So if you missed anything, I know I go very fast and give you a whole spray of feedback. I would strongly recommend that you go and play the recording so that you can capture all the nuances and the details of those conversations. Okay, so folks, if you like what we are doing here, and as you can see, I'm quite blunt and quite direct about what I think are the prospects of the venture, please refer other entrepreneurs that you know from your friends or family or colleagues or a sphere of influence to the program. We're looking for serious entrepreneurs to work with, and we would love your referrals. Now, resources-wise, if you want to use 1Mby1M, go to 1Mby1M.com. Everything starts there. We have a blog that is free. You can start reading the blog. You'll learn a lot there. Entrepreneur Journeys book series is a 12-volume case study-based book. Each book has 12 to 16 case studies and focuses on a different topic. All the books are on Amazon. You can find them and learn about that topic, whichever topic you're trying to get your arms around. These roundtables happen every week, are a great learning platform, and all recordings are on YouTube. You can also listen at your convenience through the recordings. The full acceleration program from 1Mby1M is premium, and that's a $1,000 annual membership fee, extensive methodology guidance. You have a full curriculum. We help you with business development. We help you with these kinds of mentoring sessions that are private, members-only sessions. And then we help you with financing, quote unquote, if you are fundable. Very important. You have to underline that if you are fundable. Not everything is fundable, and we don't guarantee funding. We also have a lot of clout, and we can help you with getting the word out in the media. The self-assessment is something that we recommend you use to understand what is your strategic plan. How are you going to go to market? What is the path to going to market? And if you get stuck on methodology points, like Chris asked me, what is bottom-up TAM analysis? What is that? Well, you're going to need to learn that, and that's covered in the curriculum. You can go do the curriculum and learn what you need to learn there. That's just $99 a month. I strongly recommend. Almost all of you today have a lot of methodology learning to do. You have a tremendous amount of methodology gaps. And an easy way to do that, to plug those gaps, is to do the curriculum, and you'll learn a lot. So dig around on the website. You'll find lots of information about each of the programs, basic, premium, and there's FAQs, video FAQs. Go through the curriculum description to see how the curriculum is presented, and get to know the program and see if it's for you. It's not for everybody. This program is a lot of self-learning and a lot of self-discipline. If you don't have that rigor, if you're not used to online learning, if you're not used to self-motivated learning, you're not going to be able to handle this program, and that's just not going to work out for you. So see if this is the right fit for you, for your style of learning. We cannot really handhold and spoon feed a lot. That's not a scalable model. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient, bootstrap startups. So if you have a fast startup that requires a lot of capital up front, the probability of being able to raise that money is very small. And that's something that you should pause to consider. Is there a way of being able to mitigate that kind of capital requirement and go to market, start getting validation, on an ongoing basis, as opposed to needing all that capital up front? So all these are strategic issues that have to be figured out. So we have 7 roundtables from between now and end of May. There are 7 more roundtables. You're very welcome to book your slots to come and discuss your project with me here, and we'll be very happy to give you feedback. We also have 4 in-person sessions in Silicon Valley at Cafe Boroni in Menlo Park. If you are in town, local or visiting, and it coincides with one of these sessions, please come and see me in person. These are informal, very friendly sessions. These are good networking sessions, but primarily it is the only in-person thing that we do. So I get a lot of requests for coffee. So here's our coffee meeting opportunities, like an office hour. That's it. If you want to call in and talk more, please call back in, and we'll be happy to chat with you. Meanwhile, if you have questions about the program, feel free to contact Irina Patterson, irina@1Mby1M.com. She's your contact to learn about the program. And that's it. Anybody? Questions, comments? You're going to need to recall. You need to call in, Chris, if you want to dial in. We cannot reconnect you. Here's the phone number. Okay, fine. Anybody else besides Chris who has questions? Nishank Goya joining for the first time. Great work. Thank you, Nishank. I'm glad you enjoyed it and are finding this helpful. Anybody else? What are you working on, Nishank, and where are you? What location? Where are you dialing from? Feel free to introduce yourselves, folks, as well. The phone number is on the screen. Shay Barnes, the phone number is on the screen. 650-479-3208, country code 1, access code 662-355-060. Nishank is in Delhi, CEO of mastersindia.com, automating GST compliance for some of the largest businesses in India. And you have customers already, Nishank? Great. Excellent. If you want to discuss your business, please book a slot in one of the roundtables and come discuss with me. Happy to look at it and give you my perspective. Who is this? You need to mute your computer. You have your computer on and the phone on. Chris, mute your computer.
Okay.
Are you there?
Are you there? I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So I had to Google it to see what you meant by bottom-up financing. Basically, as I understand it, you're asking for our revenue projections.
No,
which,
I'm not asking for revenue projections. I'm not asking for revenue projections. I'm asking for bottom-up TAM analysis.
Okay. What we're intending then is 15,000 boards a month in year 2. So that basically amounts to about 300 million.
That is not a bottom-up TAM analysis. Go learn bottom-up TAM analysis. I told you how to learn bottom-up TAM analysis through this program. Otherwise, figure out another way to learn bottom-up TAM analysis. What you're saying is not bottom-up TAM analysis.
Okay, I still don't get it then. All right, I'll keep studying. Okay, thank you for your time.
I have full faith that you're very capable of studying. You studied at Caltech, so you are very capable of studying. So apply that rigor to learning the business side, and it will pay immense dividends.
Okay. All right, I'll keep trying. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Shay, have you been able to dial in? It looks like you have your hand up and you have questions. Nishank, that sounds great. When you have a pitch deck ready, please feel free to come by. Anybody else? I see Shay's hand up, but I don't see Shay's questions, or I don't see Shay's. I don't see that Shay has called in. Anybody else, folks? Any introductions? Any questions? Comments? If not, I'm going to adjourn the session. And by all means, come to one of the roundtables and present your project, and we'll work on it together, okay? So last call for questions, otherwise I'm going to adjourn the session. All right, well, then see you next time. Go to the website and register, and I look forward to working on your business soon. Bye-bye.